Okay, apparently I have Kyle's microphone tonight. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Monroe City Council meeting. This is a regular study session for Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. The time right now is 7 p.m. Happy Tax Day. I'm going to go ahead and ask that our clerk please call the roll.
Thank you. Councilmembers present and establishing quorum are Councilmembers Fletcher, Walker, Gamble, Fisher, and Monroe. For the record, Councilmember Gamble is attending.
All right, thank you very much. Please also let the record show that Councilmember Beaumont contacted us earlier today and advised that she is stuck in traffic, probably on State Route 522, and that we will announce for the record when she, or shortly after she enters the chambers. Also, did Councilmember Hanford indicate that he would not be here this evening? I don't recall that. Okay, we will announce his entry into chambers when he arrives. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the first item on the agenda, or next item on the agenda. That would be item number 3, Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Fisher, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comments. I will spare everybody the reading of the script for public comments. For now, is there anybody who signed up to speak this evening? Okay, are there any people here that would like to speak under public comments? All right, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, and that would be flip the page. Councilmember Gamble, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just letting you know, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but the camera for the chambers is not on.
You're supposed to envision the council being present. Thank you very much, Councilmember
Thank
Gamble.
you. All right.
All right, we're off to a great start tonight. I need my coffee. All right, we're going to go ahead and start off with Councilmember, we're now going to go to Councilmember reports. I'll start off with Councilmember Gamble.
Just got my mute on, back on. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Scarborough.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Walker.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Fulcher. Thank you. Councilmember Fisher.
And we're going to sweep this and say nothing to report.
All right, sounds good. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, and that would be the Mayor and Administrator reports. And I will turn to Administrator Knight for the Administrator Report Extended Agenda.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the extended agenda for the upcoming meetings. Looking at next week, April 22nd, we will have a Council P3 subcommittee meeting. We will have approval of minutes, and then under new business, conversion of structures to housing with Leanne Barr. And then under unfinished business, the festival lot options are going to be returning to P3 for further discussion and input. For the regular council business meeting, under the consent agenda, we have the regular accounts payable, the meeting minutes and payroll. Transportation impact fee adoption will be coming back with Mr. Peterson. The ordinance to amend and to authorize the city council to adopt general rules of procedure is first reading with Jody Wyckoff. And then a resolution for the board and commission rules of procedure, also with Jody Wyckoff. And then a SNO 911 ILA update with Chief Jolly. Under new business, we have park board appointments, park impact fees, first reading, franchise application fee resolution, and then department reports. Looking forward then to the 29th, we will not have a meeting as a majority of council members will be in Washington, D.C.
All right, thank you. Any questions or items for the extended agenda from the council? Got a look online. Councilman Gamble, okay. Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to 6.2, City Administrator Report. Administrator Knight.
Thank you. Just a couple of items to note for the calendar. We have an Arbor Day and Earth Day celebration on April 25th at 1 p.m. at Lake Ty Park. So if you would like to attend that and need more information about the exact location, you can contact either Jody Wyckoff or Liam. We also have a Puget Sound Regional Council Annual General Assembly for May 22nd, and I think there were a couple of council members that at the last meeting had indicated interest in attending, and I believe if you are interested in that, please contact Liam again so you can get registered. And then I distributed at the dais the poll for the City Hall Festival Lot Tour. So if you could just return your poll to me filled out at the end of the meeting, we would greatly appreciate it so we can get that scheduled. And for Councilmember Gamble, who's online, I will send you a copy by email.
All right. Before I turn to the council, see if there are any questions on that, we'll go ahead and announce for the record that Councilmember Beaumont entered chambers at 7:04 p.m. All right, are there any questions on the city administrator's report? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item. That's the mayor's report. Mayor's report's in the packet by way of Monroe this week. I'd also go ahead and add that reminder that there is an egg hunt this coming Saturday. I understand that it starts at 10 for the actual egg hunt. I also understand that Chamber was talking about having people there as early as 9, so I'd imagine the booths will be set up in that hour up until the 10 o'clock. So I encourage everybody who's able to be there, and I think that's all I have to report for this evening. We're going to go ahead and move. Any questions for me? Okay. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next item. That would be discussion items number 7. We're going to go with 7.1, proposed amendments to Chapter 3.52 MMC Park Impact Fees with Mr. Swanson. Good evening.
So tonight I'm actually joined by Michaela. She's online. She's from Community Attributes. And I think Councilmember Gamble and Councilmember Scarborough in 2022, you met her. She was the same person that did our analysis for our park impact fee back then. And so what this is this is similar to the transportation impact fee that both Jake and Scott Peterson introduced to council a few weeks back. It's the same process, a little bit different. Where we're at is we adopted our park impact fee in 2022. And so what happened for us is the RCWs, the state regulations changed and required us to update it using a different methodology. Where we're different from transportation is we're still using our existing capital data from our 2020 plan that was already adopted. And so none of that baseline data is changing. We're essentially realigning it to meet the new RCW. And I don't want to get into too much yet. Michaela will go through a PowerPoint presentation and kind of go through the basics with that. But philosophically, it's the same conversation that we have around transportation impact fees. It's the same impact to new home, new residents or new homes coming in would be paying that at time of either building permit or they have options to delay it. And so you'll see in there we have a couple different graphs showing up what's proposed at our highest allowable charge. Again, Michaela will go through a little bit of that. And then what our existing is. It's not an apples to apples comparison because that was based on unit type, where what we're proposing is based on number of bedrooms. And we do have some comparisons in the slides that we presented. But again, all jurisdictions are going through this right now, so everybody's trying to play catch up. So some of it is still based on kind of unit type. And then, I already kind of covered our existing data. And with that, I'll turn it over to Michaela. And then Jody has that PowerPoint here, and she'll pull it up and kind of go slide by slide with that.
Thank you, Ben. Good evening. I'm Michaela Jellicoe, Senior Economist with Community Attributes. And as Ben said, I have a brief presentation. Next slide. So I'll just give you a little bit of a primer. It sounds like you guys have been talking about impact fees recently, but I'll give you a little bit of a reminder on what impact fees are and walk you through the calculation. And then, as Ben said, I have prepared some rate comparisons for you as well. Next slide. So impact fees are a one-time payment that's paid by new development for the cost of capital facilities that are needed by new development. Next slide. There are a lot of reasons that governments choose to charge impact fees. One is a source of revenue for the capital costs of public facilities, as a matter of policy to have growth pay for a portion of the costs that are required to serve their needs. and also as a way to continue providing an excellent quality of life within your community, have the public facilities keep up with growth. Next slide. So impact fees can pay for system improvements in your adopted CFP, CIP that add capacity. They cannot pay for project improvements, so improvements within an HOA area, and they cannot pay for maintenance, repair, renovation, anything that doesn't add capacity to your system, in this case, your park system. Next slide. There are a few rules that we have to follow in developing your methodology. Fair share, so that means that we can only have growth pay for growth. They can't correct an existing deficiency that you have in your park system. They have to be reasonably needed, and they have to be a proportional share, so the fee has to be proportionate to the impact of new development. Can't have any double charging, so if you're already charging a similar fee somewhere else, you can't ask for development to pay for the same thing twice. And you also, in Washington, cannot rely solely on impact fees. So you have to include some other forms of funding, or you have to just have a sort of blanket reduction to your impact fees. Next slide. And as Ben mentioned, we're here today mostly because in 2023, the Washington State Legislature amended the RCW for impact fees to be a little bit more specific about what they mean by proportionate share. So now the impact fees must reflect the proportionate impact of new housing units, including multifamily and condominium units, based on the square footage, number of bedrooms, trips generated in the housing unit, in order to produce a proportionally lower impact fee for smaller housing units. All right, and now I'm going to run you through the methodology. This is the same methodology that you've been using for many years. So this is just an update based on the most recently available data that you have. So the first is what's your growth like? And so we start with your growth forecast, projected population of 2044, based on data from your comprehensive plan. And then we subtract your group quarters population, because they're not actually demanding park facilities within your jurisdiction. So that's your total park land demanding population forecast of 21,760 for 2044. Next slide. And then we use that to estimate what's your gross future demand for parkland. Your current level of service is 16.56 acres per thousand population. So we multiply that by the 21,760 for a gross demand of 360.35 acres. Next slide. We also need to understand what your current demand is. So that's your same level of service multiplied by your current park population. And that's 302.85 acres. Next slide. So the growth related demand for parkland is 57.5 acres for between now and 2044. And then we use that to determine what's the growth factor. That's your growth related demand is 57.5 acres divided by your 2044, so your future gross parkland demand, gives you a growth factor of 16%. Next slide. And the reason we've turned that into a percentage is because we need to convert this demand in terms of acres into, which is that going to cost. So your capital cost projection from your PROS plan, your adopted PROS plan, is a 20-year capital cost of $92.6 million. We multiply that by 16%, because 16% of your capital need is driven by growth, which leaves you with $14.7 million in demand, or the value of that gross demand. Next slide. And as I mentioned before, we have to do a little bit of a reduction according to Washington state law. So your methodology uses a 70% reduction factor. So we multiply that 14.7 million in demand value by 70% to get your net demand value. So this is essentially the value that you're going to ask growth to help pay for via your park impact fee. And that's 10.3 million. Next slide. Population growth, this comes in again. So the actual population growth in your community for park demanding residents is 3,472. Next slide. And what we do here is convert that net demand value into a per capita net demand value of 2,980. So that's the net demand divided by the growth forecast. Next slide. And then last step is converting that into a per dwelling unit factor. And this is where the methodology has changed. So all those other steps are the same methodology that you've used in the past with new numbers. And this is where we're doing something a little bit more updated. So we're looking at unit type by number of bedrooms, which was prescribed as one of the options in the RCW. We have to estimate a dwelling unit factor. So that's essentially the number of people on average per unit by number of bedrooms in Monroe. And we multiply that dwelling unit factor by that per capita cost to arrive at the estimated park impact fee. So you can see that this methodology achieves what the RCW is attempting to do, where proportionally smaller units are have a proportionally lower cost for the park impact fee. And so that, based on this breakout, costs range from 3,346 per dwelling unit for a studio unit up to 10,393 for a 4 or more bedroom unit type. Next slide. So I put these comparisons together. This is based on data that was available today on park impact fee rates in these comparison cities. There are some notes, as Ben mentioned, not everyone is doing exactly the same thing. Currently, most of these are still using a single family, multifamily breakout. Most cities haven't converted their park impact fees yet. Many of them are doing the same process as you are right now. And so your current breakout uses a variety of different approaches to differentiate between multifamily. So one of those is the number of units within the structure. The rate's different for multifamily units with 5 or more density compared to others. Some districts differentiate between renter occupied and owner occupied, and the city of Bothell actually uses the size of the unit as their differentiating factor. So as you can see, for a 1-bedroom unit, your current rate is higher than your maximum allowable rate based on these calculations from your methodology, and these are the comparisons for a few other cities in the area. And I will qualify this by saying this is your maximum allowable rate. So you can choose to reduce this any way you wish. The result of doing that is less park impact fee revenue. So you'll essentially have to supplement from other sources, and that's what state law allows you to exempt or reduce for broad public purposes, and then you have to find the funding through other sources, which you typically already do. Next slide. For a 2-bedroom unit, you can see that the maximum is higher than your current multifamily unit. City of Duval is still higher. I think Duval has the same rate for all dwelling unit types. I might be wrong about Duval specifically. One of these cities definitely only has one rate, so they use the same rate for all dwelling units. Next slide. This is a comparison for a 3-bedroom townhouse style unit. Currently, you are at the very bottom for a townhome style, so in a single family attached style unit. With the maximum, you're on the higher rate of this selection of cities. I will say that there are rates that are much higher than this throughout the region. It just depends on the selection of who you're looking at as your comparison. Next slide. And then for a 4-bedroom single family dwelling unit, your current rate is 7,757. Your maximum allowable with this update would be 10,393. I think that concludes my presentation. Next slide. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Ben, did you have anything else before I turn to council for questions?
Yeah, just kind of general items that, as staff are looking for feedback on. Are you okay with the bedroom count versus the square footage count? That was something, myself looking at that, it felt a more accurate measurement of actual park impact and less of a burden on the house design. If you wanted a large living room, that doesn't necessarily equate to an impact on the park. And so that's one of them. Also, I know, just like Michaela said, everybody's doing this at the same time, and so information's evolving. We'll try to bring back the most current data at the next council meeting. And then, yeah, anything or information that you would like before we bring this back to a regular business meeting.
Okay, so I'll turn to the council. You heard what the questions are that they'd like some feedback on. Just looking for flags or hand up. Go ahead, Councilmember Fulcher.
I'm going to ask the question that a couple of us were saying to ourselves. Group quarters population, what does that mean?
Correctional facility.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I knew there had to be some kind of fancy phrase for
Yeah.
the gated community. All right, thanks. I read this and I definitely am going with the bedroom count. It just seemed like a clear a clear way to get the cost where it's going to be used. I mean, like you said, your big living room is not going to go to the park. So, but if you've got, 6 people in your house, I'm guessing it's a good day to go to the park. So, thank you.
All right. Other thoughts from other council members? Any objection to going with the bedroom? Okay, so I'm not seeing any objection to going with the by bedroom. All right, looking for other questions from the council or information you'd like brought back? Go ahead, Councilmember, so okay with the bedroom. Okay, Councilmember Gamble, go ahead.
I know we've had this question before, or we've talked about it before, but I'd be interested in any other data that is out there from some of the other cities that have programs where they have a park, because obviously we have a large amount of people that use the parks that don't put money towards the parks. I'd say it's quite the gem, for us in the community. So, different park fees associated to, resident versus non-resident park users. And just from a study session perspective, in the future, I'm not saying we have to do it as a part of this, but I would like to look at that as we continue to grow and we're not annexing. We got large community that is using the parks, and I just would like to take a look at that.
Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll have that on a future agenda. I see head nods here, so we'll put that on the extended agenda. Thank you, Councilmember Gamble. Any other questions or thoughts on this? All right, so when staff comes back with this, they'll update the data. Again, even though you see our bars in different areas there, those bars represent today's numbers, and all the cities in the area are going through this and the counties right now, so they'll update that. And there being nothing else, I thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and Michaela, thank you. Go ahead on to item 7.2, Introduction to Monroe 2044, Comprehensive Plan Citywide Rezone and Associated Amendments to the Monroe Municipal Code Title 22 Unified Development Regulations with Lance Bailey. Good evening, Mr. Bailey. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. A lot of this, some of this is going to be a repeat, and hopefully I can differentiate what we have adopted to this point and what differs for this next step that we're doing as far as the rezone. So just to remind council, when we adopted the comprehensive plan before the end of the year, we adopted the future land use maps. We talk a lot about the flume, and then we have the zone map, which are different in the aspect that the future land use map includes all of the UGA areas, and I'll show that to you on the map, and just sort of keep that in mind. So next slide.
Councilmember Gamble, your hand's up. Did you just put that up, or?
Yeah, I was just checking to see if we could verify see if Mr. Bailey's mic is on.
Mr.
I'll just closer to my own.
He's going to get closer to the mic. Thank you, Councilmember Gamble.
So the comprehensive plan that we adopted, this is.
Just a second. Councilmember Gamble, your hand went back up again. Was that intentional?
Yeah, I can hear it, but it is kind of in the background. It's all good.
Okay, we'll see what we can do here. Clap twice, everybody. All right. Also, while I have the mic for a moment, Councilmember Hanford did reach out to me. He has a family event this evening, but expects to be here. I would propose this, that if he doesn't show up before we're finished, that we would consider his absence as excused. Is there any objection to that? Okay, seeing none, his absence will be considered excused unless he comes into chambers and I announce his presence for the record. Thank you, everybody. Go ahead, Mr. Bailey.
Is that better? Can you hear?
It's the same. It's all good. I can hear you. Just it's difficult. So.
So here we have pull-up menus, which were. Developed by lots of software engineers for Microsoft over the years.
Okay, I think we're listening to described video here.
Okay, I'll go ahead. So the citywide rezone is part of the phase 1 implementation for the comprehensive plan. This includes what I'm coming to you with tonight, and also a series of code amendments that we are in the process of taking through Planning Commission and City Council. So the phase here is to do the zone changes to create consistency between the future land use map and the zoning map. And there's also some text changes that are included with these. I think that I can cover them in my narrative, but just as a reminder, those are in your packet. And I would refer to, so this map, I'll probably come back to it, I don't know if we can. This is a really good illustration that shows with the little bubbles all of the areas that are being changed. And I may come back to this later in the presentation to help remind me of some of the things. But it's a good representation of actually what we're doing. Next slide, please. And as background, we did come to City Council with this. We held a public hearing with the Planning Commission, so they actually have adopted the citywide zoning changes, and it was literally the night after the Planning Commission meeting we did an introduction to this. We changed some of the things. We learned a few things about presenting this in a little bit more of a concise way, so hopefully it will feel that way. I would point out some things that are not on here, which were the rezone the Strawberry Lane area based on comments that we had from the neighborhood. We also took out from the original proposal the rezone to mixed use of Chain Lake Road. So that is a reminder of things that are not in there. The general theme of the zoning changes, which were based on the 2044 forecast and the land use analysis that we went to for the comprehensive plan update, were to increase densities in some of the residential zones, generally the large yellow areas that you see on the north side of town, and to also rezone certain areas to mixed use. Primarily the corridor of 179 from 522 Bridge down to Main Street. And there is one rezone to mixed use up in the Roosevelt area, up on the upper left. Next slide, please. It would not be a planning presentation about the comp plan if we didn't talk about GMA. This is a well-used slide. These are the various chapters of the GMA. It's just a reminder that everything that we do, it really comes with the genesis of it is from the GMA. There's some other associated documents that we presented in the past, the SRC Vision 2050, the countywide planning policy, but it all comes from ultimately from the GMA. I wanted to, make a couple of comments, because sometimes I think the connections between what we do and why we do it sometimes aren't necessarily all that clear. And so just to point out a few here, when we look at the zoning map, is some of the things that we're relying on GMA and implementing that. One is diversity of housing. So hence the change of the R4 residential zone to R7 and making some changes to the R7 zone, which gives us a more diversity of housing in those zones, and generally an increase of density. It's not a massive increase. In fact, most of what you see in the R4 zone that you think of as new development, like the main view and the other things up on the hill, they're all developed either at a current R7 density or even higher, because they were developed under the Planned Residential Development Code. So they came in at a 30% increased density from the underlying zone. So in some sense, we're really just acknowledging the density that's already up there. So I don't think, I say that because I don't think that people are going to see a big difference in the rezoned areas that are R7. It's really going to look and feel like the new development that we've had already, I hope. The other piece was, and it's, as a part of the comprehensive plan, we did our utility and transportation plan updates. Not all the cities did those simultaneously did, and that's why we've got Public Works that's been coming and doing updates to fees, and those things are all an offshoot of the update of those utility plans. So that's the connection to GMA to why we keep on doing this. So here is the comparison from the zoning map. So we're talking about the zoning map, not the future land use. And so you'll notice that the urban growth areas, primarily Roosevelt, and then a small area on the east, sort of the northeast side of the city, is not included. So if you were to compare the future land use map and the zoning map, you would see that those in one, those areas are being displayed, and in others they aren't. So sort of a list of, I think I've gone through some of this, but I'll go through it in a little bit more detail. The R7 areas are being rezoned. You'll see on the left it's sort of a lighter yellow in the north area, and then the darker yellow on the right. So those the R4 zone is essentially going away. So everything that's R4 will be R7. And what I should have said, R4 means 4 units per acre, and R7 means 7 units per acre. Just to remind you. One other piece is we have had areas, probably the most noticeable one is the Watchdot bypass area, the right-of-way. That area previously has been zoned, and we also have had zoning district that is overlaid over Highland 2 and a number of other right-of-ways. And we're taking all of those out. They're all publicly owned. It gives a false sense of potential development in those areas to have those zones. They're not going to be developed for anything other than public use unless they went out of ownership and became something other than right-of-way, which I don't suspect that they will. So that's always been confusing. So we're taking that area out. So it's sort of the gray if you look through the middle, and there's some other associated. But that's probably the main illustration of it. On the right, you'll see that corridor from the 522 bridge south to Main Street. It's essentially one property deep along 179th is being rezoned to mixed use, which would be consistent with the area that is north of the 522 bridge that is literally where we're sitting. The other rezone is a smart. Can we go back to that first map? I hate to do that to you because it's a little. In other presentations, it's hard to sort of see that one more. There you go. On the bubble, that's the text box that's down on the bottom right. There's a small area. That's the food bank. the food bank actually sits in a residential zone or a zone district. And we really had two different options. We could either add food banks to the residential zone, which could potentially have effects if somebody else wanted to come in and build a food bank in the residential zone, or find a zone that we currently have that makes sense and rezone it that. So what we're doing moving forward is to rezone that as mixed use. There's no expectation that the food bank is going to change use, but it gives them, they're not a non-conforming use, it's a use that's allowed in that zone, so it gives a lot more flexibility to them. So that was a very small area that was rezoned. The other area that the text box is just above that, and it points to the area where it's just on the north side of North Kelsey, and that's probably most people understand that is the state roofing property, and that area was rezoned for high density residential some years back. The use on it never changed, and it's been a commercial, probably some would consider light industrial area as well. And so the rezone here will take that area back to general commercial, really in line with the activities that are there. And we've seen, we've got a pre-application right now for a business that's looking to do a coffee shop in there. And they would not have been able to do that under that R25 zone. So this has been somewhat of a bone of contention for properties that they've been trying to lease out, something that'll take care of that. The other areas are really just the R4 to the R7, and you can see that they're outlined in red. So we can move off of this one. Sorry to make you pull that on. So the code changes, and this is in your packet there, the narrative. What really I presented tonight is the first one, which is the zoning map and the zoning districts. There's also some corresponding changes within the actual development regulations. The big one being we're removing all the references to the R4 zone, and we're also removing that chapter for the transportation zoning district, because that was associated with those right-of-way areas being zoned.
Lance, before you move on to the next one, Councilmember Scarborough had his hand up. So.
Can you go back one slide? One more. Yeah, there. So everything that's outlined in red is going from R4 to R7.
Not all of them, but areas that are outlined in red indicate the areas that are being rezoned. So you'll see the large blocks around the yellow, those are the R4 to R7. And then in contrast, the one I was talking about was the food bank, which is a very small property. So it's just to give you where the extent of the rezone is.
Thank you.
Before we continue, any other questions from council? All right, go ahead.
So our next steps, we will go back to Planning Commission on April 28th. We're going to adopt the findings and conclusions that are related to the citywide rezone. We will be coming back on the 13th to City Council to hold a public hearing, and potentially accept the first reading of the ordinance, which will essentially be what I presented to you tonight. And then May 20th or June 10th, council could final action. I should have brought it up when you had that map up. So we did send postcards out, which we double checked 3 or 4 times before we sent them. I guarantee you that we did that. And what it was, this was for the Planning Commission public hearing. Did anybody receive these? The only people that would have received them would have potentially been impacted by the rezone. So, no.
I got one.
Well, we send you everything.
Oh, okay.
But we will be sending out
Yeah.
a postcard for the city council hearing as well.
And the only people that would have received postcards are those that are in the, to Councilmember Scarborough's point, in the red areas, which on this are in the black areas. Yeah, so I'm in the black area and I got a copy.
Red does not print well.
Yes.
Learn that well.
Councilmember Fisher.
Sorry, I'm kind of behind here. I just had a quick question. Noticed the red around the Strawberry Lane neighborhood. Is it the same thing for the Davis property that we were calling it? Was it Mon 2? Is that what we were calling it? Was that up there as well?
The Montu is not on the zoning map because it's not even in the UGA now, but the county did approve the request for the Montu UGA expansion. So the county will be moving forward on that process
Okay.
and once they finish that, we'll need to come back and change our future land use map, not the zoning.
Okay. Those are just the two big items that we all remember discussing those during all of it. Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to piggyback on Councilmember Fisher's question. Do we have pre-annexation zoning or anything within our UGA?
We do, they will go in.
Understood.
Initially, it's R7.
Yep. Deborah just whispered something that triggered my answer. So they're not in the UGA, so they're not going to have a pre-annexation zoning. So never mind. Thank you. All right. Thank you, planner Deborah. Yeah, there you go. To be determined. Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, so next steps are up there, and all right, go ahead.
That concludes my presentation.
Okay, that's what I thought, and then I saw this slide pop up. Okay, cool. All right. I think that's all we have this evening. All right, so that's all we have this evening. We don't have a need for a 10-hour executive session or anything like that, unless there is other business. And seeing no objection, I will call us adjourned. We are adjourned. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you for your service. Hopefully I'll see you on Egg Hunt Saturday. We're adjourned.